Welcome back to Switchstars, my name's Luke, and today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at HOLYHUNT, a game which despite its appearance is not just another Vampire Survivors clone, and is in fact a classic twin-stick shooter with a dose of roguelike for good measure. Only a stone's throw away, I know, but don't write it off just yet, as there are some interesting things going on in this one. But drop a like, subscribe for more Nintendo Switch reviews, and let's check it out. So the opening to the game presents us with a nice 8-bit styled intro in which we're given a bit of a backstory. Basically, the end of times are nigh and the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse ride forth to enact doomsday on the planet, but with a gun in hand and faith at our side, it falls to us to avert the impending cataclysm and fight back these four dark riders. Not the most original storyline, but it does the job nonetheless. Now, we get two game modes to choose from in HOLYHUNT, the first being Start Game, which is essentially a standard roguelike with a finite ending, and the second Arcade mode, which is also a roguelike of sorts, but in an arcade format, and we'll get onto this one shortly. But the options menu has your usual settings, as well as a way to toggle the CRT filter if, like me, you're not really a fan of it. Getting into the roguelike mode though, we begin the game in an atrium of sorts, and there are a few things we can do here, which include purchasing upgrades once we've earned enough currency, reading up on some of the core mechanics, and eventually setting up our bullets. But to start a new run we need to speak to this priest fella, who will initially run us through a tutorial. Now this tutorial teaches us the basics, including how to move and aim using the left and right thumbsticks, how to shoot using the right trigger button, and how to dodge using the left. It also clues us up on one of the game's more unique mechanics. You see, you only actually carry 3 rounds in your gun at any one time, and while you can reload it, this takes precious time and leaves you vulnerable. But the game teaches you that after shooting an enemy and having them start flashing orange, you can then dash into them to perform an execution, which not only reloads a single bullet, but also resets your dash meter. This mechanic rewards skillful gameplay, allowing you to chain together executions and essentially never have to reload. But in addition to this, when killing an enemy, you'll also build a combo meter seen in the top left corner, which, as we'll get onto shortly, is used to activate certain abilities. Finally, executions also build your faith meter, seen in blue next to your health meter at the top of the screen, and you're able to expend a point of faith to heal a point of health. After completing the tutorial though, you'll then be transported back to the atrium, and from here you'll speak to the priest again, who will now give you the option of 3 different horsemen, which will determine the boss you face in this run, and after selecting a boss, it's then time to head on back through the door to begin the run proper. Now, the basic gameplay loop in HOLYHUNT consists of 2 waves of enemies, followed by a random perk or blessing selection, followed by 2 more waves of enemies, and then a final random perk selection before facing off against the boss, and after defeating a boss you'll continue the run selecting a new one until you've conquered them all. Each wave consists of multiple enemies spawning in, starting with these small imp-like creatures and hellhounds, and the dogs are a little tricky to begin with, but once you get the hang of things, these first waves aren't all that difficult to handle. But as you progress further into runs, additional enemy types are then introduced, including new variants on the imps and dogs, as well as summoners who spawn additional enemies in, and fire-spitting demons. Now, I would say that all of these add a reasonable amount of variety and challenge to gameplay, and they do to a certain degree. However, some of this is negated by the fact that no matter what order you select bosses in, every wave of every run always spawns the exact same enemy sets, and being a roguelike, I was expecting randomised enemy spawns, but the element of surprise is taken away due to this. The same can be said of the arena though, it's just this single church area throughout the entirety of the game, which is a shame really, and I don't really think it would have taken a whole lot of work to randomise the enemies and add in a few different areas with unique mechanics for you to contend with. Getting back to the gameplay though, the blessings you can acquire include things like faster fire rate, giving you a chance to restore ammo when you kill an enemy, giving you a faith point if you survive a wave without taking damage, and granting you a protective angel who automatically fires at enemies. But they also include blessings that activate when you hit a certain combo score, granting you shields or healing you. Overall, the blessings are relatively limited in comparison to other roguelikes, but they do add a little variety and allow you to gain a leg up as things become progressively more difficult. And all of this is intended to play into the comboing and execution mechanics, but as you're about to see, unfortunately, this doesn't end up being the case at all. Now when it comes to the bosses, each of them has their own nuances for you to contend with, and there's a significant spike in difficulty from the waves that preceded them. But War assaults you with close range melee attacks and teleports about the arena, Conquest is a ranged boss who shoots hails of arrows at you, and Pestilence releases waves of deadly gas. And there's quite a decent amount of variety to them, and you're almost guaranteed to fail at these the first time you face them. But this is where the upgrade system comes in. For each enemy you defeat, you'll receive a certain amount of currency, which can then be spent in the atrium to improve your character, increasing your health, faith and ammo count, speeding up your movement, reload and dash cooldowns, or on unlocking 4 new bullet types. Your initial bullets are more like a short-range shotgun, requiring you to get in close to deal any kind of damage, but these additional types offer new ways to tackle enemies, including a long-range sniper attack, which must be charged for a few seconds, piercing bullets that hit multiple enemies, and assault bullet which doesn't actually deal any damage, but stuns enemies, leaving them incapacitated and unable to move. Now, if it were just these bullets alone, that would have been enough to maintain a decent level of difficulty to the game, whilst also providing you with options in combat. However, the 4th bullet type trumps them all, and in turn, completely destroys any element of challenge that the game had left to offer. Let me introduce you to the Holy Water Bullet. Now, this bullet not only deals damage when it hits the enemy, but also drops a puddle of holy water on the ground, which not only deals damage every second an enemy is caught within it, but also slows them down, and the holy water remains on the ground for about 10 seconds, giving you ample time to reload and release a new volley of them, as well as allowing you to place puddles down before the wave even spawns in. As I said earlier though, killing an enemy builds the combo meter, and the faith and shield blessings activate at 12 and 15 combos respectively, so you can quickly see how taking no damage and constantly gaining shields and faith to heal you results in you essentially becoming immortal. Now, up until I unlocked the holy water bullets, which were the last ones that I unlocked I might add, I was actually having a relatively tough time with the game and had spent a few upgrade points on health and ammo count, but this is entirely unnecessary, and after obtaining those bullets, I breezed through the game in about 20 minutes flat. The final disappointment with this one came at its end though, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but let's say that there are 4 horsemen in the game, but only 3 of them actually put up a fight. To touch finally upon the game's arcade mode, like I said, this one's also a roguelike, but in an arcade format, and in this mode you'll start with all of the upgrades and ammo that you had unlocked in the roguelike mode and face unlimited waves of enemies, with blessings and bosses appearing every 10 waves until you fill out your max blessing count. After that it's just the bosses that appear every 10 waves. There are a few additional enemy types to face in this mode, however, like the roguelike mode, none of them put up much of a fight against the holy water, and I managed to make it all the way to wave 100 with very little effort. So when all said and done, Holy Hunt is a solid little arcade come roguelike which has some interesting mechanics going on, and the moment to moment combat is actually pretty decent, at least to start with. But in my opinion, the entire experience is ruined by a lack of variety to its enemies, perks and bosses, and an overpowered weapon, which not only negates any kind of challenge, but also the core mechanics which the developers intended you to utilise. It's by no means the worst roguelike or arcade game I played on the Switch, and I still had fun playing it, and for the price it's worth picking up if you're looking for something to fill an hour or so with, but unfortunately it's let down by some simple oversights in its game design, and it did have the potential to be a whole lot better. That though is about it for this review of Holy Hunt on the Nintendo Switch, so let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments section below, and drop a like and sub if it helped you out and you're looking for more Nintendo Switch content. But for now, thanks to the patrons of the channel for their ongoing support, and to you the viewers for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.